is for my president, His Excellency. This message is for my president, His Excellency Dr. Abdurrahman Mohammed Abdullahi Iro. Mr. President, the Somaliland strategic missteps, arrogance of Somaliland pro-talks leaders is a danger to the state of Republic of Somaliland sovereignty. Sovereign states possess the ultimate authority over their territories and can withdraw from agreements, especially those made with entities they consider part of themselves. While such actions carry consequences, sovereignty provides the agency to act decisively. Somalia, viewing Somaliland as a secessionist region, faces negligible fallout from reneging on agreements. Yet Somaliland's pro-talks politicians continue to place faith in external guarantors or vague notions of Somali solidarity. When questioned about these assumptions, Somaliland leaders sidestep accountability, proposing national conferences instead of concrete strategies. This evasiveness weakens Somaliland's position. The foundation of Somaliland's claims lies in its 1960 independence and legal arguments rooted in state continuity, not in empty rhetoric or misplaced negotiation tactics. You do not need to talk with Somalian fascist administration because they have nothing for you. They just want to annex Somaliland again. The African Union's 2005 fact-finding mission supports this view, stating that the union between Somaliland and Somalia was never ratified and therefore lacks legal standing. The report further asserts that the basis of Somaliland's existence as a distinct entity is grounded in its historical and political evolution, highlighting that Somaliland's independence is a matter of historical legitimacy. It adds, the failure to recognize Somaliland's aspirations for self-determination constitutes a violation of its rights. These findings not only support Somaliland's historical claims, but also complement its aspirations for recognition. Alarmingly, Somaliland's political leadership has largely ignored the African Union's findings, raising questions about the reasons for such neglect. Why dismiss an opportunity that could bolster Somaliland's position on the global stage? There are numerous supporting documents from international legal experts that corroborate the assertion that the supposed union was never ratified. Many international lawyers are astounded by the tactics employed by some factions in Somalia, who appear intent on annexing Somaliland while disregarding its right to self-determination. Shockingly, some politicians from Somaliland themselves contribute to this misleading narrative, potentially undermining the nation's quest for sovereignty. Article 10 of the Constitution states, "The Republic of Somaliland shall observe all treaties and agreements entered into by the former state of Somalia with foreign countries or corporations, provided that these do not conflict with the interests and concerns of the Republic of Somaliland." By retaining this provision, Somaliland effectively endorses agreements made by a dictatorial regime that has not governed for over 3 decades. Critics argue that this acknowledgement of past agreements raises concerns over the nation's resources and sovereignty. The continued acceptance of an outdated framework threatens to undermine Somaliland's rightful claims to independence and self-governance. Moreover, Somaliland meets all the criteria for statehood outlined in the Montevideo Convention, which includes a defined territory, a permanent population, a functioning government, and the capacity to engage in international relations. The persistent belief in a unity narrative remains the primary barrier that misleads the international community regarding Somaliland's status. If this narrative is corrected, Somaliland could confidently pursue a seat at the United Nations and seek full membership. The AU report further asserts that the right of the people of Somaliland to self-determination is in line with the principles of the African Union. This acknowledgement underscores the significance of Somaliland's sovereignty as not only a local issue, but one that warrants international recognition. The report states, Somaliland's claims to statehood are not only legitimate, but also in conformity with international law. It is crucial to describe the 30 years of control exerted by Somalia over Somaliland as unlawful. Rather than acting as a partner, Somalia sought to annex Somaliland, relegating it to a subordinate status. Such a situation is deeply troubling for a nation that has consistently fought for its independence. The failure to amend the constitution to align with the true sentiments of the Somaliland people could be seen as a betrayal of national interests. Those perpetuating the inaccurate unity narrative, likely for personal gain, jeopardize Somaliland's future. Experts and legal scholars alike concur that the Constitution does not accurately reflect the will of the Somaliland populace. In 1993, President Mohammed Ibrahim Egal of Somaliland applied for admission to the United Nations through a letter to the Secretary General. Regrettably, he framed the application within the narrative of unity, Greater Somalia, which positioned Somaliland as a subordinate region under Somalia. This misstep initiated ongoing issues in the pursuit of international recognition. Since then, subsequent Somaliland presidents have not pursued United Nations admission, raising questions about the country's strategy. In light of this analysis, there is an urgent call for members of Parliament to act decisively. The Constitution must be amended to reflect the realities of independence and the historical truth that no legal union ever occurred. Acknowledging this reality will not only strengthen Somaliland's claims for international recognition, but also empower the people to reclaim their rights. It is time for Somaliland to confront these contradictions head-on. Amending the Constitution and total change of its current ambiguous narrative will enable the nation to present a narrative that accurately reflects its sovereignty and enhances its position on the global stage. Conclusion. Somali Republic is an imaginary concept based on the proposed unratified union between Somalia and Somaliland. Somali Republic does not legally exist as a country in international bodies, for example, United Nations, African Union, Intergovernmental Authority on Development, and so on. Somaliland, a former British protectorate which took her independence from Britain on the 26th of June 1960, and Somalia, a United Nations Trust territory, had a proposal to unite in a third name called Somali Republic. However, this did not come into reality as the process of unification malfunctioned when Somalia admitted itself in the United Nations while impersonating Somali Republic. This imaginary and constitutionally unfounded concept is still used by Somalia as a separate entity to contain Somaliland's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and political independence. Somalia has unsubstantiated ideology that it had a functional governance over all regions inhabited by the ethnic Somalis before the colonial power had arrived in Africa. Somalia claims that the colonial power divided Somalia into regions, hence giving the inherent right to reclaim all the Somali regions back into its tentacles. Somaliland was illegally occupied by Somalia from the 5th of July 1960 to 1991. Somaliland had declared victory over the occupation and restored her independence based on its independence on the 26th of June 1960. Please act like a legitimate president of an independent country. Expel the United Nations Assistance Mission for Somalia, United Nations Support Office in Somalia, from the country immediately. In the same way, expel from the country any non-governmental organization operating on behalf of Somalia. Declare that you do not recognize Somalia as a government. Request a special envoy from the United Nations. Do not accept the appointed ambassador to Somalia. Organize a conference for all Somaliland scholars from all over the world to develop a policy to implement the Somaliland Foreign Ministry.